So the last month I worked on a game. I spent about 160 hours just plugging away using Windsurf cursor, just AI tools. The experiment, I guess you could call it, is just to see how far we can get, just mostly prompting. However, I did end up doing quite a bit of debugging myself. And so in this video, I kind of wanted to explain what are the current limitations, what can you do with it, what is it really good at. If you're a beginner, what kinds of stuff could you make? Maybe not knowing a lot of programming, and also if you're seasoned developer, what can you maybe use it for, so that doesn't screw up what you're doing. So why am I showing this on the screen? This was something I streamed. This is my second stream, and this is when I was like, this is crazy. So I think this is one of the things it's very good at. Let me zoom out here. Is making, if you're not a designer, like for me, I'm not good at making stuff like this. It generated a very, in my mind, a professional looking site pretty quickly. So I built this, redesigned this whole UI for the site within 4.5 hours. And it has files, which is actually new. I didn't implement that before. This was a prior project, but a lot of this functionality it created. I created a premium so you can buy credits. This site's supposed to be like a resume enhancer cover letter thing. Um, and I'm working on the auto apply engine. So I think for a web app, it's very good. And so my next goal after this was like, okay, well, let's try making a game, and specifically this Vibe Jam competition. I was like, this is an interesting way to test sort of the capabilities here. So I worked on this and developed a pirate-looking game. I'm transforming it currently into something else, like a MOBA, League of Legends kind of thing. But it has multiplayer, it has, and if you're someone who's watched the streams, you kind of get the gist, but it's got abilities, it's got inventories, leaderboard, etc. So this was really cool. We also built some, like, as Discord, connected Discord bots within an hour and a half. I built this, so I streamed it. And essentially, if you're on Discord, you can talk to the players in game. And this is another capability. It just kind of blew my mind. The Cano, who's on the stream and also in the Discord, he generated this Minecraft game with Gemini, and just a few prompts, I think. You can place blocks. You can, it's kind of like the initial prototype of Minecraft. This is something someone else made, so that was really cool. He made like this city where you can go from game to game. So all this to say, lots you can do fairly quickly. And I wanted to share a little bit about what, first of all, the exciting things you can do. Like this guy's building a game engine, sort of like making a game, but he's vibe coding it. So that's cool as well. But that's great. So what are what are some of the problems, right? Like, let's say you're a beginner or seasoned, maybe somewhere in between. What kinds of things can you expect to run into when you start to make an app or something like this? And I'll just kind of list some of the common pitfalls. And if you don't mind, I'm going to paste in some text. Don't worry, I'll go through it. But something that I ran into right when I started the project is I had I just started with like 3 or 4 files. I was not really paying attention so much to designing the, architecturally making it maintainable, because I was just testing. And consistently over the project, anytime a file would go over like 1,500 lines, didn't really matter what model, the generations sort of break down. And after this, you end up having to manually refactor yourself. Any refactors that you do, just a disaster, takes a really long time. So this is kind of like at least for now, I'm sure, we see currently that there's going to be like 1,000,000 context length in the new models coming out. Actually, I think the new Gemini Pro 2.5 already has 1,000,000. But even with that one, over 1,500 lines, can't do it. So this was one limitation. The next limitation is anytime you're doing a lot of integration between files. Like let's say you set up a complex design pattern for your biomes. This is something I ran into. So like you have like 4 or 5 files it's going through to, and you have to modify the logic for each one. You have a lot of interfaces, and it's similar to the problem of context, right? Like the more stuff you're adding here, the more challenging it's going to be. But specifically the integration between files, I have a really tough time with. So my strategy has been to really narrow the scope and integration to just be kind of like one place. Like, hey, I have a new feature. We're going to integrate with the game loop in this file, and keep the patterns there really simple. If you do that, you get some pretty great generations. And I am just talking about games because that was my experience so far, but this probably goes for web apps, pretty much anything you're working on as well. You really have to be mindful of your context length. Otherwise, you're going to run into a painful refactor. But this one here is more for the beginners, less coding knowledge, um, specifically security related things like, you know, and you see a lot of the vibe coding games, there's just like obvious kind of security flaws related to injection attacks and stuff like this. So you need to know like some basic stuff, right? Like sanitization, the server being the source of truth. So there is a a bit of a learning curve, I'd say, if you're a beginner and you're making an app like this. But trial by fire. You just use like Firebase or something for your authentication. You know, um, but overall, I would say that this is one of those things that you probably should learn about before you really jump into it. Maybe you prototype it yourself, but before you actually publish an app and try to sell it or whatever, you probably should, make sure you're doing the right stuff when it comes to this. And also, when it comes to actually making the app, when you're prompting, having coding knowledge is useful. Like, what is a, I use very, very simple patterns, admittedly, but it's really helped me when I've been trying to like organize, something. So like, I have like a manager file or a registry file. That kind of terminology has really helped my generations with the game. So, even if you know, you don't know anything about coding, you can maybe kind of get like a general idea of like how the file structures should be. And I'll probably make future videos about like tips and tricks for making these patterns and specifically the prompts in a way that you can generate good results. So now let's get into what it does well. Uh, paste in a little more text here. If you're trying to create a prototype, like something that you can, a game, a simple game, a simple web app, simple landing page, you can do it very quickly. Like within an hour, you can have, really staggering results. Stuff that would maybe take you like a week, you could have very quickly. Um, so that's something that's really cool. Like for example, I made this Blender kind of like simple Blender tool. I guess I don't have the tab here, but um, within 6 hours. So it's for tooling purposes too. Like if you're on a team in a company and you could create many internal tools, simple tools for your team to use for yourself, automating something for yourself, things like this. So um, simple scripts, automations, incredibly fast. And I would say it's very good at adding new features, even when the code base is large, if you do it correctly. Like most of the generation, you want to keep as much as possible not integrating between files. Make a separate file, and then after you make separate files for your features, then you kind of try to do the integrations and keep it really simple, as simple as possible. So that's kind of what it does very well. I want to get into some of the future capabilities I'm looking forward to. Um, it's been reported that there's going to be, in the new llama models, 10 million tokens, the context window. So if we can expand some of these limitations we're having right now, I think we're close to a point that, you know, prompting just through English could become more and more powerful and get over some of these limitations. I mean, primarily these two limitations are the major factors for causing me to have to actually touch the code itself when I'm making the game. So if the context window goes up, it's still effective. You know, let's say they quadruple this, right? 8,000 lines. Like it'll take forever for me to hit that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope they get that in the next year. New DeepSeek model. I've noticed there's been quite a few of these kind of services where they kind of have a code window. It's kind of like Cursor, but you got your preview on one side and you got your code generation on the other side. You prompt maybe with English. This is interesting. For me, I do like to kind of just mess with the code, but I could see if you're someone doesn't want to mess with the code, maybe this is something that's cool. I'm looking forward to the DeepSeek model, mostly because it's cheaper. Um, There's some other news. Basically, I'm just showing that there's some interesting things that I'm looking forward to trying. I'm gonna keep, you know, experimenting with things and seeing what works. So, and I'm excited for the new. Right now, I'm primarily using the cloud Sonnet thinking. This is my Go 3.7. So this is what I've been using for the game. And so I guess I'll show kind of what I've been working on a little bit. So you can see a general idea. And yeah, so this is pretty much it actually. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I'm probably going to make more videos like this. I kind of want to keep them sort of low-key, uh, just kind of going over things that I learned and, you know, the things that might be helpful. So yeah, thanks for watching.